Hi there. Today's episode deals with topics that include racism at work. Please listen with care. Welcome to Beyond Equity, The Courage to Care, a podcast from ONA, the Ontario Nurses Association. This podcast is all about hearing stories from each other with a perspective of anti-racism and anti-oppression. Whether you're listening because you want to advocate for others or to check your own biases, the first step always is to listen. That's why this podcast was made for you. Today we're meeting Layla.
The best part of my job is the reward of seeing patients to get better. It's also fulfilling when they accept their treatments and medications with trust. That is really priceless.
Layla has been working as a nurse in Canada for over 20 years. Before that, she had 10 years of experience as a nurse in the Philippines, where she's from.
In the Philippines, when I work in an acute care hospital, the nurses had little to no voice in patient care. In Canada, the role is much broader and more empowered, especially in the place where I work now.
In today's episode, Layla is going to tell us about the best and worst daily experiences working as a nurse, and specifically as an internationally educated nurse, or IEN. Layla shares her daily reflections on social media as a way of sharing and connecting with other people who understand the work, and today she's sharing her story with us.
My name is Layla, and I'm working as a staff nurse at a stroke and neurology unit. The best part of my job is the reward of seeing patients to get better, whether they're going home or moving on into the rehab to continue their healing, and their appreciation when the patients give letters, small tokens of appreciation, or simply holding our hands and say thank you with a smile is the sweetest feeling. It's also fulfilling when they accept their treatments and medications with trust. That is really priceless. The worst moments is usually when you get a report from the emerge and it's the end of shift, or they promise to send the patient once the bed is ready. But as soon as you hang up the phone, the patient already there, um, agitated, restless. So that means it will make the team scrambling to manage the situation. So no one goes home on time. Another difficult situation is when patients are non-compliant with their treatment but continue to complain and make a fuss over small details. It's also very challenging when patients became impatient while waiting for discharge. Some want to leave against medical advice. The coffee is helpful. So you can tell when it's so stressful, you're talking more, you're kind of like happy but not happy. That's because of the magic of the coffee. And my unit is really very supportive, so we huddle, we hug each other when it's really bad. I came here in 2005, and then I became a nurse in 2006. In the Philippines, when I work in an acute care hospital, the nurses had little to no voice in patient care decisions. Everything was dictated by the doctor, and the pay was very low, and salaries were only given once a month. That's the nursing in the Philippines. And our role was also different. We didn't usually do like those bed baths, changing briefs, because all of the patients there have their own family and private caregiver. But we do technical procedures like putting an IV medications, blood works. We follow doctors during rounds, kind of like a secretary holding 20 patient charts because 20 is to 1 in the Philippines. One nurse, 20 patients. And then we listen to the doctor, we write what he wants, and then that will be the doctor's order that you need to acknowledge all day. In Canada, the role is much broader and more empowered, especially in the place where I work now. During the day shift, the nurse usually has just only 4 to 5 patients. At night, we have 5 to 7 patients. And we do everything like feeding, changing, setting up patients for tests with medication administrations, and like it's like a total care, because even if the patient is walking or ambulatory, these are the patients who requires a lot of pain meds or lots of tests. So we are expected to assess, advocate, and make recommendations to physician here. You have the voice to suggest what is best for this diagnosis. And we collaborate with other allied health, like other nurse. We are helping each other alongside with the healthcare professionals. Before I came, I already practicing as a nurse for 10 years in the Philippines. And then when I came here in Canada in 2005, I have to do bridging for almost a year with consolidation. And back then, it's not NCLEX, it's nursing licensure examination. I advise the young nurses to to be not too scared to try things. But at the same time, if you are unsure of what you do, you should ask, because mistakes can kill and maybe it's not reversible. So when in doubt, you have to ask. To learn, you keep trying. I always tell this to my student that nursing is a customer service, because a lot of our patients became sick because of stress. And sometimes a lot of them just want to talk to you, or they just want to receive lots of care and love that they don't have. And sometimes you could feel that they're there. You don't even find what kind of disease they have. But when you start talking to them, be loving, you provide needs that they never had or no one is providing. And that's one of the most rewarding part of nursing, when you feel that they trust you and they are willing to receive nursing care from international students. So I share my nursing life reflections online, and I'm really careful of of the things I need to say. It's a kind of like a venting board, because before I used to share everything to my husband, and then he became sick. It was too heavy for him to carry, and some of my stories made him uncomfortable. And at one point, he even wished I would stop working because of the risk I face. As a nurse, I've gone through experience that are both physically and emotionally draining. For example, a patient once threatened to shoot a nurse if he didn't get a sandwich and juice, and another threatened to wait for me outside and kill me because we had to restrain him during severe alcohol withdrawal. Another one is a psychotic patient once grabbed a sharps container and threw it to us while we were trying to calm him with medication. So, writing about these moments helped me to process the stress, honor the reality of nursing, and connect with others who understand the challenges and resilience it takes to keep showing up in this profession. Because it's sometimes you need to say it sometimes in order for you to go back and sleep. It's difficult. You need to say it to someone. When patients do not trust you because of your color or accent, that's the most challenging part of being an IEN, because I have a distinctive Filipino look. Some even tell me directly that I don't know how to speak English without opening your mouth. And in those moments, I remind myself to just remain professional and compassionate. As long as you follow a clear care plan to ensure the patient receive a safe, consistent care while also protecting the integrity of the healthcare system. And often these patients have had negative experience in the past or carry very high expectations that cannot always be met. So navigating their mistrust requires patience, resilience, and empathy. So I try to understand them. I know they didn't come there for a vacation, but for treatment. I met this couple. The patient is the man, and I'm working in a step up unit, which means it's step up is kind of like before going to ICU that requires one is to one care. So he's really sick. He have lots of IV connected to him, so it's understandable. He's delirious. But what's more upsetting is the wife. The wife has a list of the medications, and I keep telling her, we are not giving this medication right now. It's suspended by the doctor. Not until your husband is well. She keep insisting on what she wants, and I keep insisting on what the doctors order as well. Because as nurses, you follow your instinct and your nursing skills, but at the same time, there's an order, doctor's order that you need to follow, and those medications are suspended. Oh my God! In few minutes, she went out and called 911. She said, "I said I'm in the hospital, and the nurses are killing my husband." They didn't take her seriously because they asked her where she is, and she said she's already in the hospital and she's in a step up unit. So they know that the husband is getting a very good treatment. The most challenging part of my job is when patients do not trust me because of my color, accent, or appearance. And sometimes they would refuse to get care from you. And then when you start talking and you get the accent, they will say, "How did you become a nurse in Canada?" I always say I became a nurse because I went to a 4 years study, and I didn't just become a nurse overnight. I read books. We had lots of experience. We went to consolidation to practice become a nurse. I write my exam, and most of it is I'm assuring them, but at the same time I'm saying it in a professional way, not arguing, but and then after that, if he still refuse you to become a nurse, then it's time to change a nurse. But there's a lot of time when there's no white nurse, so he cannot have any choice. My colleagues don't support racism, and most of the people I work in the hospital doesn't support racism. Like this is a diversified hospital, and we respect each other, and we respect the dignity of everyone. It's really important to forget about what happened today so then you can go back tomorrow. Otherwise, it is so scary of facing the same horror shifts. So even if you know that when you go back tomorrow, you probably have the same patients. Once you talk about it, it's really lightening your mood. And having a good night's sleep is really important to reset your body, to reset everything in your thoughts, to forget some of the horrifying moments in your previous shifts. When our manager acknowledges our effort and presence, and the way we deal with patients is really appreciated. Some of the best moments are when colleagues celebrate or recognize our milestone or birthdays, holidays, and where we step outside of our scrubs after difficult shift and simply just enjoy each other's company. That's really helpful to de-stress ourselves. And of course, it feels rewarding when patients show their appreciation as well. whether by supporting our unit events or when physicians take the time to treat the staff during the holidays. Those small gestures create lasting memories and make the work feel even more meaningful. What I want people to know about IENs or international educated nurses, yes, we may speak with an accent, but it does not diminish the excellence, compassion, or dignity with which we treat our patients. When you hear us laughing in our own language, it usually means we're sharing a light moment, which is not the same when we translate it in English. And when you hear us speaking quietly in our language with serious faces, it's often because we're overwhelmed by the challenges of the task, but still we determine to resolve it and we stay because of our deep commitment. And if sometimes our accent, mannerisms, or words come across differently, please know that we never mean it in a bad way. We only promise to do our very best with heart and with honor to every single shift we showed. I'm raising the Filipino flag in excellence, compassion, skills, honesty, and knowledge. And INs, we are not perfect, but every day we bring with us the goodwill and dedication to provide exemplary nursing care to all, regardless of race, gender, status in life, or vulnerability. And our diverse experience back home shape us into become resilient nurses, able to face difficult and chaotic shifts with gratitude that we have the privilege to serve. And when patients or families express anger or frustration, I try not to take it personally because I know they are not here for vacation but for healing and resolutions of their health concerns. Overall, I have learned that nursing is not only a profession, but a calling that shapes character, uplifts others, and leaves a lasting impact on every life we touch. And that's nursing.
A big thank you to Layla for telling your story and for the work you do to help newer IENs starting their own careers in Canada. Layla is a volunteer with several networks for IENs that she wants to make sure that you know about. There's Care Center for Internationally Educated Nurses. You can find them online at care4nurses.org. That's CARE 4, the number 4, nurses.org. There's also Integrated Filipino Canadian Nurses Association, which has a Facebook group. Now, here are a couple of takeaways from today's episode. Number 1, develop a daily practice of self-reflection, which Layla does with her social media updates. And number 2, building networks of support is key when you're dealing with racism at work. We all need peer support. It's crucial, especially when you need the strength to advocate for yourself and others, just as Layla does. Developing networks of support is also one of the 10 tips from ONA's Anti-Racism and Anti-Oppression Toolkit, which is directly linked to ONA's strategic plan and the ONA ARAO Action Plan. You can read more about them at ona.org. If you want to talk about your own mental health, check to see if you can access an employee assistance program through work or find help through beyondsilence.ca, a mental health support tool developed by and for healthcare workers. For more information, visit ona.org/ARAO. This podcast is produced by Hannah Sung and Meg Shannon for ONA, the Ontario Nurses Association. Post-production is by Reza Daya. Original theme music is composed by James Hill for Project Whatever. Thank you to Kieran Maxwell, Patrick Mazambi, Lauren Snowball, to students James K. and Maya Aris, and to ONA leadership, including Provincial President Aaron Aris, CEO Andrea Kay, Vice President and Human Rights and Equity Portfolio Holder Karen Mackay-Eden, and Vice President Rachel Muir. If you like this episode, especially if you work in healthcare, share this with your people. And thank you for listening.